A startling discovery. In the cold depths of space, an alien research vessel drifted silently through the void. Its crew, a diverse mix of species from across the galaxy, busied themselves with their usual tasks, analyzing data, maintaining equipment, and conducting experiments. The ship's chief medical officer, a tall, slender being with iridescent skin named Dr. Xyloth, was engrossed in studying a new virus they had collected from a distant moon when an urgent message blared over the comm system. Attention all crew. Unknown vessel detected. Scan shows significant damage and a single life form aboard. Vital signs critical. Preparing for emergency docking and rescue. Dr. Xyloth rushed to the medical bay, their long fingers already flying over the controls to prepare for whatever species and injuries they might soon be facing. They had treated countless patients over their career, but each new case brought fresh challenges and opportunities to learn. The bay doors hissed open, and a team of security personnel carried in a limp form on a stretcher. Dr. Xyloth's eyes widened as they took in the unfamiliar bipedal creature, with pale skin and a shock of dark hair on its head. A jagged piece of metal protruded from the being's chest, dark red blood oozing around it. "What species is this?" Dr. Xyloth asked, already running scans. "I've never encountered their kind before." One of the security officers handed over a data pad. Ship's records identify it as a human, originating from a planet called Earth. No other information available. As Dr. Xyloth and their team worked frantically to stabilize the human, they marveled at the being's resilience. Despite the grievous chest wound and extensive internal injuries, the human clung stubbornly to life. But even the most advanced medical technology had its limits. After hours of surgery, Dr. Xyloth stepped back from the operating table, their shoulders slumped in defeat. "I've done all I can," they said heavily. "But the damage is too severe. Organ failure is imminent. I don't expect them to survive more than a few hours." The human, who had remained unconscious throughout the ordeal, stirred slightly. Eyelids fluttered, then opened to reveal startling blue eyes that seemed to pierce right through Dr. Xyloth. "Where am I?" the human rasped. "What happened?" Dr. Xyloth quickly explained about the discovery of the damaged ship and the rescue. The human listened, their expression unreadable. The human's voice trailed off as a spasm of pain crossed their face. "I need you to trust me. What I'm about to do will look strange, maybe impossible, but it's my only chance." Dr. Xyloth leaned closer, their curiosity piqued despite the dire situation. "We'll do whatever we can to help. What do you need?" The human's piercing blue gaze locked onto Dr. Xyloth. "I need you to stand back and don't interfere. No matter what it looks like is happening." With that cryptic statement, the human closed their eyes and seemed to concentrate deeply. Dr. Xyloth and their team exchanged puzzled glances, but did as they were told, stepping back from the bed, but keeping their scanners trained on the strange alien creature. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then, to the utter shock and disbelief of the alien medical team, the rhythmic beeping of the heart monitor began to slow. The human's chest stilled, the rise and fall of breath ceasing. Brain waves faltered, then flatlined. Dr. Xyloth stared at the monitors, then at the now apparently lifeless body on the bed. They had witnessed many deaths in their time, but never one that seemed so deliberate. What had the human done, and why? The human's desperate gambit. The medical bay was eerily silent, save for the soft whirring and beeping of the alien machines monitoring the human's vital signs, or lack thereof. Dr. Xyloth and their team stood motionless, eyes fixed on the limp form on the bed, half expecting it to suddenly spring back to life. But seconds ticked by, then minutes, and still, the human remained perfectly still, no breath or pulse detectable. It defied all medical logic. By all accounts, the human was dead. And yet, they had seemingly willed this state upon themselves. Dr. Xyloth's mind raced with questions. What possible reason could the human have for deliberately stopping their own heart? Was this some strange cultural ritual or religious practice? Or was there a physiological explanation, something unique to human biology, that allowed for this kind of suspended animation? The alien doctor forced themselves to remain still and silent, remembering the human's plea to not interfere. It went against every instinct they had as a healer, watching a patient slip away without taking action. But there had been something in the human's eyes, a glimmer of desperate hope mixed with steely determination, that compelled Dr. Zoloff to trust in the human's words. As the minutes stretched on with no change in the human's condition, Dr. Zoloff's colleague, a shorter, stockier being named Dr. Werlock, finally broke the tense silence. "This is madness," he growled, his deep voice reverberating through the room. "We can't just stand here and do nothing while our patient dies right in front of us." Dr. Zoloff held up a slender hand, their eyes never leaving the human's face. "We must honor their request. They seemed to know what they were doing. We have to give them a chance." Dr. Werlock snorted in disbelief but fell silent, his clawed hands clenching and unclenching at his sides. The other members of the medical team shifted uneasily, glancing between the unmoving human and the monitors that stubbornly refused to change. Just as Dr. Zoloff was starting to wonder if they'd made a terrible mistake, a soft chime sounded from one of the scanners. All eyes snapped to the display, widening in shock at what they saw. Deep within the human's chest, at a level imperceptible to the naked eye, something was happening. Cells that had begun to die were suddenly suffused with new energy, repairs beginning at a speed that should have been impossible. Damaged tissues knitted back together, organs slowly regaining function. It was like watching a time-lapse of a flower blooming or a butterfly emerging from a chrysalis. Life was returning to the human, not in a sudden rush, but in a slow, steady progression that spoke of ancient evolutionary processes at work. Dr. Zoloff let out a breath they hadn't realized they'd been holding. "By the stars," they murmured, awestruck. "I've never seen cellular regeneration like this before. It's almost as if the human's body is rebuilding itself from the ground up." Dr. Werlock leaned closer to the monitors, his earlier skepticism replaced by grudging fascination. Their genetic structure must be incredibly advanced to allow for this kind of self-repair. Even our most sophisticated medical nanobots can't achieve results like this. As the minutes ticked by and the human's vital signs continued to climb, Dr. Zoloff felt a growing sense of both excitement and unease. Excitement at witnessing something truly extraordinary, a medical marvel that could potentially revolutionize their field. But unease at the realization that humans, a species they had previously known nothing about, possessed capabilities far beyond what they had assumed. What other surprises did this mysterious species hold? And what would it mean for the delicate balance of power in the galaxy if humanity turned out to be more than just another primitive race stumbling their way into the stars? The alien doctors had little time to ponder these weighty questions, however, as a soft groan drew their attention back to the bed. The human's eyelids fluttered, then opened, revealing those startling blue eyes once more. Dr. Zoloff stepped forward, scanner at the ready. "How are you feeling?" they asked gently, half expecting the human to have no memory of their strange ordeal. But the human just smiled slightly, a knowing expression on their pale face. "Like I just had the best power nap of my life," they quipped, their voice still weak but filled with relief. "Told you to trust me." Dr. Zoloff and their team could only shake their heads in wonder. It seemed their incredible patient was full of surprises, and they had a feeling they were only beginning to scratch the surface of the mysteries this lone human represented. Cellular regeneration. In the hours following the human's miraculous revival, Dr. Zoloff and their team worked tirelessly to monitor their patient's condition and try to unravel the secrets of their strange biology. Scans and samples were taken, analyzed, and debated as the alien doctors tried to reconcile what they were seeing with everything they thought they knew about life in the universe. The human, meanwhile, remained frustratingly cryptic about the details of their abilities. They confirmed that yes, they had indeed purposefully stopped their own heart to allow their bodies' regenerative processes to take over. But when pressed for specifics on how this was possible, they simply shrugged and said, "It's a long story. Let's just say my kind has had some enhancements over the years." Dr. Zyloff pored over the cellular scans, marveling at the intricate dance taking place within the human's body. It was like watching a symphony orchestra, each cell playing its part in perfect harmony to repair damage and restore function. "These nanobots," they murmured, zooming in on a cluster of microscopic machines busily knitting together a torn blood vessel. "They're unlike anything I've ever seen. It's as if they're part of the human's natural biology, rather than an artificial addition." The human, overhearing, chuckled softly. "You could say that," they said, wincing slightly as they shifted on the bed. "My ancestors realized pretty quickly that if we were going to survive out here in the big bad universe, we needed a few upgrades. The nanobots were one of the first." Dr. Zyloff shook their head in amazement. But the level of genetic engineering required to integrate something like this into a species' genome, it's staggering. Your people must have incredibly advanced biotechnology. The human smile turned a bit rueful. "We did, once. But that was a long time ago. Things have changed a lot since then." Before Dr. Zyloff could inquire further, Dr. Werluck bustled over, datapad in hand. "I've been analyzing the human's cellular regeneration rate," he said excitedly, "and I think I've figured out how they were able to survive such catastrophic injuries." He brought up a holographic display, showing a magnified view of the human cells. "See here how the mitochondria are working overtime to produce ATP. And these specialized enzymes, repairing DNA at an unprecedented rate. It's like their cells have been supercharged to heal from almost anything." The human nodded, unsurprised. "That's the idea. Our bodies are designed to keep going, no matter what. Short of a direct hit to the brain or complete vaporization, we can pretty much bounce back from anything." Dr. Zolot's eyes widened as the implications sank in. A species that could survive almost any injury, that could regenerate from the brink of death itself. The potential applications were staggering. From medicine to space exploration to military might, a human's abilities could tip the scales in any number of fields. But something in the human's tone gave them pause. There was a weariness there, a hint of bitterness underlying the casual boasts, as if the incredible gifts they possessed came with a heavy price. "Your people," Dr. Zoloff said slowly, choosing their words with care. "They must be very resilient to have developed such advanced adaptations. I can only imagine the challenges you must have faced to drive such rapid evolution." The human was silent for a long moment, their gaze distant. "You could say that," they finally said, their voice low. "Let's just say that when you're the new kids on the galactic block, you learn pretty quickly that you have to be tough to survive. We didn't have the luxury of playing nice." Dr. Zyloff and Dr. Werluck exchanged a glance, a silent understanding passing between them. There was clearly more to this human story, and to the history of their species, than they were letting on, and if they wanted to unravel those secrets, they would need to proceed with caution and care. As the alien doctors continued their analysis and the human rested, their body slowly but surely rebuilding itself cell by cell, a palpable sense of anticipation hung in the air. The feeling that they were on the cusp of something momentous, a discovery that could change everything they thought they knew about the universe and their place in it. Little did they know just how profound and far-reaching the impact of this one human's presence would be. For their miraculous recovery was only the beginning. A single ripple in a pond that would soon become a tidal wave, sweeping away old assumptions and revealing truths long hidden. The story of humanity, it seemed, was far from over. And the alien doctors of the research vessel were about to find themselves at the very heart of the next chapter. Ancient origins revealed. As the human continued to recover, their remarkable abilities earning both awe and unease from the alien medical team, Dr. Zoloff found themselves consumed with a burning curiosity about the origins of this mysterious species. Late one ship's night, While the humans slept, and the medical bay was quiet, Dr. Zoloth sequestered themselves in their office, determined to uncover whatever information they could about Earth and its inhabitants. At first, the search proved frustratingly fruitless. Earth, it seemed, was a relatively obscure planet, located in a far-flung arm of the galaxy that had only recently begun to be explored by the more advanced spacefaring civilizations. What little data there was on humans painted them as a fairly primitive species, still confined to their own solar system and only just beginning to dabble in advanced technologies. But as Dr. Zoloth dug deeper, sifting through ancient records and forgotten archives, a very different picture began to emerge. Scattered references to a cataclysmic event in Earth's distant past, a time of great upheaval and change that had reshaped the very course of human history. The Gene Wars, the records called it, a period of intense conflict and competition between different factions of humans, each seeking to gain an edge through genetic enhancement and modification. At first, the changes were relatively minor: increased strength, enhanced senses, faster healing. But as the wars dragged on and the stakes grew higher, the modifications became more extreme, more drastic. Some groups focused on creating the perfect soldiers, warriors with unbreakable bones and lightning reflexes, able to shrug off even the most grievous of injuries. Others sought to unlock the secrets of the mind, developing telepathic and telekinetic abilities that gave them an unparalleled advantage in espionage and sabotage. And then there were those who looked to the stars, realizing that the true key to humanity's survival lay not in conquering their own world, but in spreading to others. These factions poured their resources into creating the ultimate spacefarer, a being able to withstand the rigors of long-term space travel, to adapt to any environment, and to heal from any wound. It was these latter groups, Dr. Zoloth realized with a start, that the human recovering in their medical bay must have been descended from. The pieces of the puzzle were falling into place, painting a picture of a species that had fought and struggled and remade itself in the crucible of interstellar conflict. But the records also spoke of the toll these enhancements had taken, of the unintended consequences and unexpected side effects, the way the very fabric of human society had been torn apart by the power imbalances and ideological divides the Gene Wars had created. In the end, the different factions had all but destroyed each other, leaving only scattered remnants to flee into the stars and start anew. Dr. Zoloth sat back in their chair, their mind reeling with the implications of what they had learned. The human on their ship was no mere accident, no lost soul adrift in the cosmos. They were a living reminder of a forgotten chapter in galactic history, a testament to the lengths one species had been willing to go to secure its own survival. And if the abilities the human had demonstrated were any indication, those lengths had been vast indeed. The power to regenerate from even the most dire of wounds, to survive the vacuum of space and the crush of alien atmospheres. It was the stuff of legend, the kind of might that could reshape the very balance of power in the universe. Dr. Zoloth knew they had to tread carefully. News of the humans' presence on their ship and of their incredible abilities could not be allowed to spread unchecked. There were too many factions, too many competing interests that would stop at nothing to get their hands on such a prize. But at the same time, the scientist in them rebelled at the idea of keeping such a momentous discovery secret. The human represented a treasure trove of knowledge and potential, a window into a past that could hold the key to shaping the future. As the ship's artificial daylight cycle began to brighten, signaling the start of a new day, Dr. Zoloth came to a decision. They would continue to study and learn from the human, but they would do so discreetly, sharing their findings only with medical marvel or potential threat. News of the human's miraculous recovery soon spread throughout the research vessel, sparking intense debate among the crew. Some saw the human as a medical marvel, a living testament to the incredible resilience and adaptability of life in the universe. They argued that studying the human's unique biology could lead to breakthroughs in fields ranging from regenerative medicine to space exploration. Imagine if we could harness even a fraction of their healing abilities, one enthusiastic xenobiologist exclaimed during a heated discussion in the ship's mess hall. We could cure diseases, extend lifespans, make our explorers and colonists hardier. The possibilities are endless. But others were more cautious, even fearful of what the human represented. They pointed to the glimpses of Earth's history that Dr. Zoloff had uncovered, the bloody legacy of the gene wars and the toll that unchecked genetic modification had taken on human society. What's to stop them from using those same enhancements against us? A security officer growled, her hand resting uneasily on her sidearm. We've seen what they're capable of, how quickly they can recover from injuries that would kill any of us. Who's to say they won't decide to conquer us next? Some even went so far as to suggest that the human was too dangerous to be allowed to leave, that they should be detained indefinitely for study, or even dissected to uncover the secrets of their biology. In the medical bay, Dr. Zoloff found themselves torn between their scientific curiosity and their ethical duty to their patient. The human had begun to open up more about their past, sharing stories of the struggles and triumphs of their kind as they sought to find their place among the stars. "We're not conquerors," the human insisted, their blue eyes intense. "All we've ever wanted is to survive, to find a way to exist alongside the other races of the galaxy without being crushed or exploited. Our enhancements are a double-edged sword. They give us an edge, yes, but they also mark us as different, as a potential threat to be eliminated." Dr. Zoloff couldn't help but feel a pang of sympathy for the human. To be born into a legacy of conflict and fear, to carry the weight of your entire species' survival on your shoulders. It was a burden they could scarcely imagine. But they also knew that sympathy alone would not be enough to sway the more militaristic factions on the ship. If word got out about the humans' presence, if the wrong people learned of their abilities, it could spell disaster not just for the human, but for the delicate balance of power in the galaxy as a whole. Dr. Werlock, ever the pragmatist, proposed a compromise. "We continue to study the human," he suggested, "but we do so under the strictest of secrecy. No one outside of the medical team is to know the full extent of their abilities. In the meantime, we work to understand their biology, to see if there are ways we can adapt their enhancements for our own people, but in a controlled, regulated way, to avoid the mistakes of Earth's past." It was a risky plan, one that relied on the discretion and loyalty of a small group of individuals. But it was also the only way forward that didn't involve outright imprisoning or experimenting on a sentient being against their will. In the end, Dr. Zoloff agreed to the proposal, though not without reservations. They knew they would have to be constantly on guard, both against the humans' potential duplicity and against the machinations of their own crewmates. But the lure of knowledge, of unraveling the mysteries of this strange and powerful species, was too great to resist. And so, as the research vessel continued on its voyage through the stars, the alien doctors and their human patient settled into an uneasy truce, one that could shatter at any moment, with consequences that none of them could fully predict. An uneasy truce. The days turned into weeks as the research vessel continued its journey, the human's presence becoming an increasingly open secret among the crew. Despite Dr. Zoloff and Dr. Werlock's best efforts to keep the true extent of their patient's abilities under wraps, rumors still swirled, fueled by the occasional glimpse of the human walking the ship's corridors, or the whispered speculations of those who had witnessed their miraculous recovery firsthand. For their part, the humans seemed to be growing restless, chafing at the restrictions placed on their movements and interactions. They were a free spirit, used to roaming the stars at will, not being cooped up in a medical bay or confined to a single ship. "I appreciate all you've done for me," they told Dr. Zoloff one day, as the doctor ran yet another series of scans on their constantly evolving physiology. "But I can't stay here forever. My people, they need me. There's so much work still to be done, so many threats we have to face." Dr. Zoloff hesitated, torn between their duty to their patient and their responsibility to the greater galactic community. The human was right. They couldn't keep them contained indefinitely, not without crossing some very serious ethical lines. But at the same time, the thought of unleashing the human's power and knowledge on an unsuspecting galaxy filled them with trepidation. In the end, it was the human themselves who proposed the solution. "What if we made a deal?" they suggested, their eyes glinting with a mix of calculation and sincerity. "I share what I know about my people's history and biology, give you access to samples and data that could help your own research. In return, you let me go, but with a promise to keep what you've learned secret, to use it only for the betterment of all species, not as a weapon or a tool of domination." Dr. Zyloth mulled over the proposal, weighing the risks and benefits in their mind. It was a gamble, trusting that the human would keep their word, that they wouldn't use their freedom to wreak havoc or destabilize the delicate balance of power between the various galactic factions. But it was also an opportunity, a chance to gain knowledge and insights that could potentially change the course of history. With a heavy heart and a sense of both hope and foreboding, Dr. Zyloth agreed to the human's terms. Over the next few days, a flurry of activity overtook the medical bay. As samples were taken, data was downloaded, and the human patiently submitted to one last round of tests and scans. And then, just as suddenly as they had arrived, the human was gone, their sleek, one-person craft detaching from the research vessel's airlock and disappearing into the void of space. Dr. Zyloth watched them go, a mixture of emotions swirling in their chest, relief, sadness, excitement, and fear all blended together in a dizzying cocktail. In the weeks and months that followed, the alien doctors pored over the data the human had left behind, marveling at the intricacies of their biology and the tantalizing glimpses of their history. The potential applications were staggering. From new regenerative therapies to advanced space travel technologies, to ways of enhancing their own species' physical and mental capabilities. But always, the specter of the gene wars loomed in the background, a cautionary tale of the dangers of unchecked power and the unintended consequences of playing God. Dr. Zyloth and their colleagues worked in secret, sharing their discoveries only with a select few and always with the utmost caution. As for the human, their fate remained unknown, a mystery that would continue to haunt the dreams and fuel the speculation of those who had encountered them. Some claimed to have seen them on far-flung worlds, brokering deals and forging alliances with a skill and charisma that seemed almost supernatural. Others whispered of their battles against ancient evils and eldritch horrors, their genetically enhanced body and mind pushed to the very limits of endurance. But one thing was certain, the galaxy would never be the same. The human's presence had sent ripples through the fabric of space and time, setting in motion events that would shake the course of civilizations for eons to come. And on a small research vessel, an alien doctor sat in their lab, staring at a vial of crimson blood and wondering just what kind of future they had helped to unleash.